Welcome back to lesson 104. All right, so this is the last lesson for this week. By now, I'm pretty sure that you know whether or not we're going to go back to school Monday or not. So, you're going to be happy? I'm not sure. I don't know. As I told you, I'm not going to be recording this anytime during that week. This is the previous week, so I have no idea. But, we have to go over this. And I wasn't just talking about rear ends right there. I'm just saying we have to talk about this even if it's that you're going back to school on Monday or we're going to keep on doing these videos on Monday. It doesn't really matter. This is an important lesson. It's something that you will actually use in Algebra 2 as well. And it's something that it's important to know. And so today we're going to talk about lesson 104, solving quadratic equations by completing the square. And so I have to actually go into completing the square, what it means and everything. But I think it's actually really easy. It's not as hard as most of you or people might think just by looking at the title. You do need to know a little bit of a formula, but it's not that hard. And so let's actually dive right into it, all right? Be a real athlete about it and dive. Or, like Godwin or a lot of people that are really good at diving in school. So before example 1, we have to actually know what we're talking about in completing the square. So this is kind of like the concept behind it. But before that, I'm going to explain this. So we have this is the, what is it called? Binomial of perfect square trinomials. Okay, so this is called perfect square trinomials, right? So we're gonna do that really quickly. And so to be able to do the FOIL of this, you don't really have to do FOIL. I told you it's gonna be a squared minus, in this case, minus 2ab. So 7 times 2 is 14ab, obviously. So minus 14x plus 49. Plus b squared. And in this case, it's going to be x squared plus 2 times 3 is 6x plus 9 because it's b squared. So what happens is that if you understand the pattern was a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And in this one is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Well, let's apply this into this right here. ax squared plus bx plus, but in the next one, we don't know what it is. So, because I noticed that I didn't put a 2 here, okay? But then 14 is what of 7? 14 is twice as much of 7, or 7 is 14 divided by 2, and 3 is 6 divided by 2. So what if I say that in the last term, what I have to do was divide the middle term by 2 and then square it. Because if I divide 6 by 2, it's 3, and 3 squared is 9, okay? 14 or negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. And squared, negative 7 squared is 49. And so that is how you complete the square. Completing the square is that if you have something like this, ax squared plus bx, you can't factor it. But you can complete the square so that then you can factor it into something like this. Because this then becomes x plus b over 2 squared. And that is the factorization of this. So that's what completing the square is. Completing the square is that we're going to put a number here. We are literally going to put a number there so that we are able to solve the quadratic quadratic function by factoring it out, all right, by doing factorization. And that is what completing the square is. So let's actually go into example 1. All right, so this is example 1, and I know that some of you are going to be confused because example 1 in your book only has one example. But this is on the side of the book, and I'm going to do this one as well with you so that you understand the concept. So what I told you was that if you had something that was ax squared plus bx, the way to actually complete the square was to put b divided by 2 and square that. And that would be the completion of the square. So that's literally what we're going to do. We're going to say plus, what is b? Well, in this one, because b is going to be right next to the x, the linear term, 8 is going to be b. And so it's going to be 8 divided by 2 squared. And so it's going to be x squared plus 8x plus 4 squared, which is going to be x squared plus 8x plus 16. Yes, as you can see. And so if we actually factor that out, it's going to be x plus 4 squared. Right? Any questions? No. By the way, completing the square is just this, but this is the factorization of that completion of the square. All right? Just checking my marker's still good because it hit a little bump here. I don't want to ruin it. Not like I don't have any more, but good job. But then we could just, keep using this marker, not be wasteful. Because I don't know how long this is going to take, and I might just run out of markers at some point. That's why I just don't draw on the board unnecessarily, like some of you do. Thank you. So we have x squared minus 12x, and then again what we're going to do is like b, all right? So what is b here? B is going to be negative 12, but I'm going to still put a plus. And the reason is because we already checked out that the last term is going to be positive anyway. And so it's going to be negative 12 squared divided by 2 squared. And so this is going to be x squared minus 12x plus negative 6 squared. And so x squared minus 12x is going to be plus 36 because that is what negative 6 squared is. And so that would be obviously x minus 6. I don't know why I wrote what I wrote there. Not happy with that 6. There you go. A little bit better. Not like much better, but a little bit. And so that's good enough. And that would be it for example 1. Okay? All right, in example 2, we have two beautiful A and B's, and then we're going to do example 3 with A, B, and C, I believe. No, just A and B. But let's slow down and take this one example at a time. So this is example 2A. And so what we have to do here is complete the square. Now, most of you would be tempted to just move the 11 here to make it on minus 11, but that would make it very hard for us because we wouldn't be able to factor. Because what are the factors of 11? 11 is a prime number, and so we couldn't do it. We couldn't really get negative 11. So it just doesn't really work as well. Let's just actually leave it as it is, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to complete the squares here. And so it's going to be, we're going to complete the square on this side, on the left side, and leave the 11 by itself on the right. Okay? So how do we complete the square? We're going to put 10 divided by 2 squared. Okay, so that would be x squared plus 10x plus 25. Hopefully you can know that 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. And so then I have to add 25 on this side as well. By the way, I forgot to do it here too. You have to do it on both sides because it's an equation, right? You have to maintain a balance. And so if I add this here, you have to add it here. So in here, what do we get? We get this. We get x plus 5 squared equals 36. Okay? Are we done? No, because in here, what we want to know in this particular example is, what does x equal to? Well, x is going to be equal to, we don't know yet. And that's why we have to square root both sides. So when we square root both sides, it's going to be x plus 5 equals plus, minus, and 6. Yes, it's actually really important for you to put plus minus. So again, we have to split it in two, and then one of them is going to be x plus 5 equals 6, and x plus 5 equals negative 6. And so in here, x plus 5 is going to be 1, right? And then in here is going to be x equals negative 11. All right, so do you think I'm done? Yeah, maybe, but not quite. We have to check. And so to be able to check, we're going to put these numbers in the beginning, not in this part, but in the beginning. So let's check really quickly. When x equals 1, that's going to be easy because then 1 squared plus 10 times 1 is going to be 11. Well, what do you know? 1 plus 10, is it 11? Yes, 11 is 11. Not 10. 11 is 11. Like in Stranger Things. O-L. Yeah, 11. So 11 is going to be 11, and that's going to be it for the first part. And then we're going to check negative 11, where we're going to say, okay, negative 11 squared. Remember that plus 10 times negative 11 is going to be 11. So in here, we're going to have 121 minus, because positive and negative is negative, is going to be 110 equals 11. Well, 121 minus 110 equals 11. Boom, we got it. Now it's important to check your answers just in case you get extraneous answer, all right? Extraneous answers are answers that when you solve, it might give you it, but when you put it back to check, it might not be it. But that would be the first part of example numero dos, or 2. Okay, so in the second part of example 2, by now you should know the drill. We're going to complete the square. So we're going to do x squared minus 8x plus 8 divided by 2 squared equals 9 plus 8 divided by 2 squared. Okay, so in here we end up with x squared minus 8x plus 4, because, no, plus 16. Oops. I was thinking of 8 divided by 2 and not squared. And so it's going to be 9 plus 16. And so in here, we're going to end up with x minus 4 squared equals 25. Okay. Again, you need to get really good at factoring. That's another lesson. That's not this one. Let me get some water because I'm getting choked up over here. I hope we have school next week. All right, so then we're going to square root both sides. Boop, boop. And so it's going to be x minus 4 equals plus minus 5. Again, you have to put the plus minus 5, and not you're going to get it wrong. And so it's going to be x minus 4 equals 5, and x minus 4 equals negative 5. Okay, so when we move it to the right to solve for x, it's going to be x equals 9 and x equals negative 1. Because in here we add 4, but this is negative 5. So it'd be negative 1. And so that's it. So then we have to check. Yay, checking. Hooray for checking. And so we're going to say, what happens when x is 9? We're going to put it right in the beginning. So it's going to be 9 squared minus 8 times 9 equals 9. Well, 9 squared is going to be 81 minus 72. And if you can't do this math in your head, you can do it in a calculator, but it would actually check out that 9 equals 9. Whoa, crazy. And then negative 1. Then we're going to have negative 1 squared minus 8 times negative 1 equals 9. Well, negative 1 squared is 1. Negative and negative is positive. Plus 8, because 8 times 1 is 8. 1 plus 8 is 9. And if you can't add 1 plus 8, you can also do it in your calculator. You'll find that 9 equals 9. And that would be it for example number 2. Okay, so now we get to the third example in which I'm going to do something that I know I didn't really explain before. But when I was putting this ax squared plus bx plus b over 2a, the a though, the a over here, it cannot be part of it. The coefficient of the first term needed to be 1 in order for us to always complete the square. So rule of thumb, you can only complete the square if the coefficient of your first term or the quadratic term is 1. Luckily for us, in this example, we can divide the whole thing by 4. Yay! So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to divide by 4. And so it would be x squared plus 4x equals 2. Oh, look at that. Now we can complete the square. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do x squared plus 4x plus 4 divided by 2 squared equals 2 plus 4 divided by 2 squared. I know you might not be able to see it, but I hope that you can see it now. Huh? Crystal clear. All right, crystal clear how you can see it. I'm so good at this. So now we're going to move on. I'm just kidding. So now that you can actually see it, x squared plus 4x plus 4 over 2 squared equals 2 plus 4 squared. No, 4 over 2 squared. Okay? Pfft. Some of you are making me mess up right now. Because no, you're probably talking or eating or doing something that you're not supposed to do in class. All right, so then, using your phones, x squared plus 4x plus 4 squared, 4 divided by 2x squared. I don't know where the x came from. But in here, then we're going to get something like x squared plus 4x plus 4. Oh, no way. And in here is going to be 2 plus 4. Wow. Crazy. And so in here, we're going to end up with x plus 2 squared equals 6. Okay, here it is. Here it's where we need to be careful about what we're going to do, because if we square root both sides, what is square root of 6? Square root of 6 is one of those numbers that we don't know. We could approximate it in the calculator, but don't do it. This is not that lesson, all right? Hopefully you guys have been able to hear me. I'm getting a little bit hot today in the basement. And so I'm going to end up with x plus 2 equals plus minus square root of 6. Okay. So then we are going to... So your book wants me to do it. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And so in here we're going to have x plus 2 equals square root of 6, and x plus 2 equals negative square root of 6. And so if I actually solve for this, it'd be x equals 2 square root of 6, and x equal negative square root of, negative 2 square root of 6, and then here is going to be positive 2 square root of 6. True story. True story. And so once you do that, you're supposed to check. And the way to check, obviously, is with your handy-dandy calculator. What we're going to do is we're going to actually put it back into the original without dividing by 4, the original equation. And so what we're going to do is put 4 times 2 square root of 6 squared plus 16 times, I'm using the positive one, all right? Let's do both just in case. I'm going to do both in my calculator though. It's just going to be easier that way, but I will show you what I get so that you guys know that I'm actually doing it. And this is why I'm telling you that as you start to get higher and higher in math, you need to understand that your calculator is going to be something that will help you a lot. Because it will. It will help you a lot. So apparently I did something wrong because I didn't get it. So let me just retry it. So it's 4. Let's just do the easiest thing to do. First of all, do 2 square root of 6. And then press enter. So it's 4.8989. Your Oh, how could I not see this? It is not multiplied. And that's why I'm glad I didn't stop recording or anything like that in this point. But it is really important for you to understand. In this one, it's going to be -2 plus square root of 6. So -2 plus square root of 6. And in here is going to be x equals -2 minus square root of 6. Whew. Important. We're never going to be adding or subtracting or adding or no. We're never going to be multiplying or dividing because in here it's plus and in here is plus. So we're always going to be subtracting. We're going to be subtracting and one of them is going to be positive for the square root of 6 and the other one is going to be negative. So that is really important because now we know that it's not 2 square root of 6, it's 2 plus square root of 6 and no, -2 plus square root of 6 and -2 minus square root of 6. 2 very different answers. So now I'm pretty sure I can get it from the beginning because before I was just not paying attention. This is why you always have to pay attention. You know, math can get you that way. That's why I'm telling you math is hard enough as it is. So try to keep it as simple as possible because if I make mistakes, anybody can make mistakes. And it's not because I'm a math genius or anything like that, but because it happens. Okay. So squared plus 16 times -2 minus square root of 6. Okay. Boom. Look at that. Okay. I put it into my calculator and look at the answer I got. I got 8. And if you look at the beginning and I put -2 minus square root of 6. The beginning, my answer was 8. So I checked. Very important to check. Now I'm going to check. Now that I checked this one, -2 minus square root of 6, I'm going to check it with -2 plus square root of 6. So I'm going to do 4 minus 2 plus square root of 6 plus 16 times -2 plus square root of 6 and in here it would be something a little bit different. But according to your book, it's so close that you would actually say that it is kind of square root of 8, and so it would be it. So now let's move on to example 3b and be done with this lesson, which is the lesson for Friday, March 23rd, 2020. Okay, so the last example of this lesson. So pay attention here. Can we complete the square when we have a coefficient in the quadratic or first term? No, we can't. We have to divide the whole thing by 3. Yay! So 3 divided by 3 is pretty easy because it's 1x squared minus 4x. And in here it's going to be minus 18. I didn't use my calculator. I just divided in my mind really quickly while I pressed play because it's not hard. 3 fits into 5 one time. And then a 2 is left over and the 4 comes down and into 24 it fits 8 times. That's how I did it. And now we're going to do the same thing we did before. X squared minus 4x plus 4 divided by 2 squared equals -8 plus 4 divided by 2 squared. And so what we're going to get here is x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals negative 18 plus 4, right? Negative 18 plus 4 is going to be negative 14. And in here, we're going to have x minus 2 squared is going to be minus 14 or negative 14. Negative 14. Now we're going to square root both sides. Then, boo, we got into a huge trouble. Because what is the square root of a negative 14? First of all, can there be square roots of negative numbers? No. I told you before, and I know I went over it today. I just don't know when. And I'm not saying today in the lesson. I'm saying today while I was recording all the lessons. I don't remember what lesson, but in one of the lessons we said we cannot have a negative number underneath a radical, because that means that it has no real solution. So the answer to this problem is no real solution. And that has been it. 2 weeks of Algebra 1 under our belt. Oh yeah, even though I'm not wearing a belt, because obviously it's sweatpants. And this cable's for my mic. Yes, I have a mic. I have a lapel mic. Testing, 1, 2. So that you can hear better. But that's pretty much it. I'm done with 2 weeks of Algebra 1. And yeah, I will see you next week, whether in school or in this channel. But I'll see you later. Goodbye.